The bass throbbed low through the velvet walls, smoke curled lazily under the dim crimson lights, and champagne flutes glimmered beneath chandeliers that never stopped swaying. The air was rich, thick with perfume, money, and desire. And through it all walked John Jungkook. He was the kind of man who silenced a room without saying a word, dressed in black from head to toe, shirt unbuttoned just enough to reveal the silver chain that caught the light when he moved. He walked with the precision of a predator, eyes cold, unreadable, dangerous. Every man in the club knew who he was. Every woman knew better than to meet his gaze. Except you. Tonight, the moment his boots clicked against the marble floor, your voice filled the room. A soft, sultry melody, low at first, like a secret whispered in the dark. The curtains parted, and there you were. The spotlight fell on you like it was made for you alone. Red silk clinging to your skin, a slit running high enough to tease, the shimmer of sequins scattering light across the stage. Your hair cascaded over your shoulders, each movement calculated yet effortless, and your eyes they gleamed like molten gold under the heat of the lights. Jungkook's breath hissed for the briefest second. He took his usual spot, the corner booth near the bar, where shadows kissed his jawline and the entire stage stretched before his eyes. The owner had long stopped asking for payment. Jungkook's presence alone was a payment. He leaned back, jaw clenched, gaze locked on you like you were the only thing alive in that suffocating world. Your hips swayed, your hands trailed down your neck, and the music climbed higher, violence blending with the slow, throbbing beat. You sang, your voice velvet, wrapping around every man in that room, but your eyes, they searched. And then they found him, that same man, the one who came every night after his bloody missions, the one who never touched, never spoke, only watched. You never asked who he was, but you could tell from the way the guards bowed their heads when he entered. He wasn't just anyone. He was danger wrapped in silk, and yet every time he was there, your performance changed, more alive, more dangerous, more you. You turned, fingers brushing your shoulder, your eyes caught his for a second. A silent confession. He didn't smile, he never did, but his eyes, they softened. The steel in them turning to something almost reverent. He sipped his drink, knuckles white around the glass. You could tell tonight had been one of those nights. He looked tired, eyes darker, the faint trace of a bruise along his jaw. You didn't know what kind of man he was, but you knew his demons came dressed in gunpowder and smoke. The music slowed, you dropped to your knees, running your fingers along the stage floor, looking straight at him, and for a moment even he forgot to breathe. When the final note faded, the applause was thunderous, but Jungkook's eyes didn't waver. He stayed seated, watching as you bowed slightly and stepped off stage, heart racing from the underline and that magnetic gaze that burned from across the room. You were about to retreat backstage when a hand caught your wrist. A man, one of the VIPs, drunk and smirking, leaned in, his breath reeking of whiskey. "Hey, sweetheart," he drawled, his eyes sliding down your dress. "How much for a private encore, huh?" You tried to pull away politely, but his grip tightened, fingers digging into your skin. "Let go," you said, your tone still composed. You were used to this. Men like him came and went. You never flinched, but tonight, something in you trembled, maybe because you knew he was watching. And he was. From his booth, Jungkook's gaze turned lethal. The shift was instant, like a switch had been pulled inside him. One second he was a silent observer. The next, he was on his feet, glass clattering against the table, the music cut off. Every hair turned as Jungkook crossed the room, slow, deliberate, the kind of walk that made the air thicken with tension. Even the guards hesitated to stop him. The man holding you looked up, still smirking. And who the hell? He didn't finish. Jungkook's hand slammed against the man's face, the crack echoing through the club. The man stumbled, crashing into a table, glass shattering. screams breaking out. Jungkook followed, jaw tight, veins pulsing in his neck. He grabbed the man by his collar and threw him against the wall. You dare touch her. His voice was low but the kind that made everyone freeze. Blood trickled from the man's lip. Who the hell are you? Another punch, harder. This time the man crumpled to the floor, groaning. Jungkook crouched down, grabbing him by the hair. You don't get to look at her. He hissed, his voice trembling with restrained fury. You don't get to breathe near her. The club was silent, no one moved, no one dared, and then the man's painful scream echoed as Jungkook broke his hand that touched you. Your breath hitched, not out of fear but something deeper, something terrifyingly raw. You had seen fights before, but this was different. Jungkook wasn't doing this to show power, he was doing it because something inside him snapped at the thought of you being touched. This will be a lesson before you touch any woman again. He turned then, his gaze landing on you. Your eyes met, his dark burning with possessive anger, yours wide, trembling, unsure what to feel. He straightened, adjusting his cuffs, blood still on his knuckles. He didn't look at anyone else as he walked toward you. When he reached you, he didn't touch you, just stopped close enough for you to feel. You okay? He asked, voice low, soft, so unlike the man who had just turned the club silent. You nodded faintly. Good. He whispered, his jaw unclenching slightly. You don't have to be afraid when I'm here. You swallowed hard, heart thudding painfully against your ribs. I never was. A flicker, the ghost of a smile. He turned to the guards near the entrance, his tone sharp again. Get that bastard out, and make sure he remembers never to step in here again. The guards nodded instantly, dragging the unconscious man away. The rest of the crowd remained still, whispering in fear or confusion. Jungkook looked back at you once more, that fierce, quiet longing in his eyes. Then, without another word, he left the club. The door shut behind him and you stood frozen, your wrist still aching where that man had grabbed you, but your heart was pounding for an entirely different reason. Because you knew, deep down, the one who always came to watch you dance, the man who made you feel seen, alive, safe, wasn't just anyone. He was your storm, and from that night you knew you had already been claimed by him. The night was loud again, laughter spilling, bottles popping, the usual rhythm of sin echoing through the club. But for Jungkook, something felt off the moment he stepped inside. He didn't know what it was yet, he only knew the air didn't feel right. As always, heads turned when he entered, the tall dark figure in the black coat, the glint of silver at his throat, the scent of smoke and danger following him like a promise. People moved out of his way without a word. Even the guards straightened when he passed. He didn't glance at anyone, his eyes were fixed on the stage. You were supposed to be there, he always timed his arrival for you. The spotlight flicked on, the curtains pulled back, but it wasn't you. A different woman appeared, blonde, new, her dress glittering under the lights. She smiled, blowing a kiss to the crowd, moving to the beat of a song that didn't belong to you, and Jungkook just stared. His hand tightened around his glass as he sat in his usual booth. He didn't blink, didn't breathe for a second. His chest went hollow. The performance went on. The crowd clapped, but all he heard was the silence that came with your absence. You were never absent, not once. He had built his nights around you. Every mission, every blood-stained memory, every haunting silence, all of it ended here, in this room, when you sang and danced like you were born of light itself. You had been his calm in the chaos, his reminder that he was still human somewhere under the smoke and the gunpowder. And now, the stage looked wrong, the song felt wrong, everything did. When the music reached its peak, the new girl spun and smiled, but Jungkook's eyes didn't soften like they always did. They stayed cold, sharp, unreadable. The ice in his stare made her falter for a second. She could feel it, the weight of being not you. He leaned forward slightly, his elbows on his knees and his jaw tight. Where is she? He muttered under his breath. Boss. His right-hand man Namjoon glanced over from the side. Her. Jungkook's eyes didn't move from the stage. Where is she? Namjoon hesitated. You mean the one who used to perform here, the singer? Jungkook turned his head slowly, and the look in his eyes made the man go pale. Yes, Jungkook said quietly. Her. Namjoon swallowed. I'll ask around, boss. Maybe she's. Not maybe. Jungkook's tone cut like glass. Find out. He leaned back again, eyes drifting to the empty spot where you usually stood, right in the middle, under that soft red light, where your silhouette had become something he memorized without trying. The performance ended, applause followed, and Jungkook didn't move. He just stared at the stage long after the curtains fell. His drink remained untouched. His pulse, however, was anything but calm. You had been the only thing that could make him feel alive after nights soaked in violence. You were the one constant in a world that kept shifting between betrayal and blood. He had never touched you, never spoke more than a few words, but you had become his ritual, his quiet, his sanity. Now it was gone. The club manager noticed his expression from the distance and quickly hurried over, bowing low. Mr. John, sir, would you like your usual wine, or where is she? Jungkook asked, voice calm, low but heavy enough to make the man freeze mid-step. The manager blinked. You mean wine, sir? Jungkook didn't answer. He didn't need to. The man shifted nervously. She didn't show up tonight. We thought she might have fallen sick, but Jungkook's gaze lifted, sharp as a blade. The man's throat bobbed. She left her place 2 nights ago, packed everything, and she's gone. Sir, no notice, just disappeared. For a long moment, Jungkook didn't say anything. He simply stared at the man, unreadable. Then slowly he exhaled through his nose, his jaw ticking once. The silence around him grew heavy, the kind that made even the air hesitate. Get out, he said finally. The manager nodded and rushed away, nearly tripping over himself. Jungkook leaned back in the booth, his ringed fingers dragging across his lower lip. The chill in his eyes was gone, replaced by something darker. Something that burned slow and cold. Disappeared? No, you didn't just disappear. He had seen the way you smiled last time, the way your hands trembled slightly when you took your bow. The shadow in your eyes you tried to hide when your gaze met his. You were running from something or someone. And the thought of that, of anyone having a claim on you, of anyone daring to take what had become his, sent a deep, violent ache through his chest. He stood abruptly. His man looked up instantly. Find her, Jungkook said, his tone low, deadly calm. Every lead, every trace, I don't care what it takes. Yes, boss. He didn't stay another minute. The club felt too empty, too loud. As he stepped out into the cold night, the neon lights from the sign above flickered across his face, half light, half shadow. He lit a cigarette, inhaling slowly, his thoughts sharp, precise, dangerous. If someone had taken you, if someone dared to touch you, what was his peace? His light, he would burn the entire city down the ashes to bring you back. You stood by the fogged window, your palms pressed flat against the cold glass, breath clouding the pane. The night outside was silent except for the hiss of rain and the occasional passing car. Neon light from the motel sign flickered red across your face, breaking you into slices of shadow. Your coat hung heavy around your shoulders, damp at the edges from the rain. You clutched it tighter anyway, like it could shield you from the memories clawing their way back up your throat. You could almost still hear the music, still see him. Jungkook in his booth, his eyes cutting through the crowd like they were meant only for you. That small moment, the only one that ever made you forget who you were, where you had come from. But you couldn't go back, not now, not when he had found you again, the man you had spent years running from. Your pulse thudded in your ears at the thought, a sickening rhythm you had learned to live with. You closed your eyes, but that only made it worse. The past came flooding back like a wound ripped open, a flash of hands gripping your arm too tightly, a contract you never signed, a name whispered like a curse. You were 19 the first time you saw him, the man who bought everything and everyone he wanted, a name that carried power in the underworld the way hurricanes carried wind. He had smiled at you once, the kind of smile that promised ruin, and within a week, your life stopped being your own. At first, you thought you could survive it, a few nights of dancing, some debts paid, and you would be free. But then you realized what he really wanted, not a performance, but possession. He had paid for you like a trophy, like a pet. You ran. You changed your name, you burned your old IDs, cut ties with the only family you had left. You vanished from city to city, job to job, until finally you found the club where Jungkook began to come. The one place where you could sing and dance without feeling like prey. You had been safe for 2 years. Or so you thought. Lately, though the shadows felt closer, faces in the crowd you didn't recognize lingering too long near the stage, anonymous notes slipped under your dressing room door. Last night, a bouquet of black roses left on your vanity with no card. And then tonight, the phone call from a number you had buried years ago. His voice came. Did you think you could hide from me forever? You dropped the phone, your heart crashing into your ribs, and packed a bag with trembling hands. You didn't even wait to finish your set. You just left. Now, standing in this run-down motel miles from the club, you could still feel his eyes on you, even though he wasn't here. The man who had brought you, the man who had sworn, "If you run, I'll find you. I always do." Your eyes darted to the shadows outside. Through the thin curtains, you spotted a black car parked across the street. It had been there for an hour. No headlights, no movement. You stepped back from the window, heart pounding, gripping the edge of your coat. You weren't just hiding anymore, you were being hunted. And somewhere in the city you had just fled, Jungkook was probably sitting in that club, waiting, thinking you had simply left without a word. He didn't know, he couldn't. Because the man who had come for you, the one you were running from, was the kind of man even monsters whispered about. And if Jungkook found out, if he came after him, there would be blood.